Let's continue on and see what happened as I left the bank. The mouse and his child lay in the snow where they had fallen, rattling with tinny, squeaking laughter. Screep, 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 laughed the father. The frog was right. Ralphie did go on a long journey. Screek, screek, laughed the child. There was good eating, too, for the badger. Screek, screek. 7 o'clock, called the clock on the steeple of the church across the meadow as its hour struck. Listen, said the father as he heard it. Silence. Creep. And he began laughing all over again. If it's time for silence, how is it that we're still talking, Papa? Giggled the child. You've already broken one of the clockwork rules by crying on the job, said the father, so we might as well break the other one too, and I have done it, with it. But I've often tried to speak after dawn, said the child, and I never knew I could until now. I wonder how it happened. Perhaps your laughter freed you from the ancient clockwork laws, said a deep voice, and the bullfrog fortune-teller hopped out from behind a tree. In the daylight he seemed taller than he had at night, and much of his mystery was gone. He was not a young frog. The glove he wore was shabby. In the cold light of the morning he could clearly be seen for what he was. An old, eccentric traveller, neither respectable nor reliable, hung with odd parcels, tricked out with a swinging coin, and plying his trade where chance might take him. He set the mouse and child on their feet, and considered them thoughtfully. I've never heard a toy laugh before, he said. Did you see what happened? Said the father, and he told the frog about the attempted bank robbery. A rash youth, Ralphie, said the frog. He had no patience, poor boy. For once I read the future truly, and it came with fearful swiftness. But you're not curious about my presence here? Why are you here? Asked the child. Because I followed you, said Frog. Sometimes something draws me to you, and the seeds I saw your fate and mine bound inextricably together. I said nothing at the time. I was afraid. There was dark and fearful things in that design, and unknown perils that can only be revealed by time. He shook his head, and the coin swung like a pendulum from the string around his neck. Oh goodness. Are you still afraid? Asked the father. Utterly, said the frog. Do you choose to go ahead? There's no going back, said the father. We cannot dance in circles any more. Will you be our friend and travel with us? Be my uncle, said the child. Be my Uncle Frog. Ah, said the frog, I had better make no promises. I'm at best an infirm vessel. Do not expect too much. I will be your friend and uncle for as long as our destined roads may lie together. More than I cannot say. He gestured toward the snowy meadow and sparkled in the sunlight beyond the trees ahead, and pointed back along the shadowy pathway that they had taken to the bank. What shall it be, he said, toward the town or out into the open country? Maybe we could look for the elephant and the seal in the dollhouse that we used to be in the store with us, said the child. Couldn't we, Papa? What in the world for? Said the father. So we can have a family and be cozy, answered the child. To begin with, said the father, I cannot imagine myself being cozy with that elephant. But, putting that aside for the moment, the whole idea of such a quest is impossible. Despite what she said, she and the dollhouse were very likely just for sale as we and the seal were, and by now they might be anywhere at all. It would be hopeless to attempt to find them. She sang me a lullaby, said the child. Really, said the father. That is absurd. I want the elephant to be my mamma, and I want the seal to be my sister, and I want to live in a beautiful house, said the child, as he insisted. It's nonsense, said the father, and yet it's not the child's fault. Our motor is in me, and he fills the empty space inside him with foolish dreams that cannot possibly come true. Not so very foolish, perhaps, said the frog. This seal, was she made of tin, black and shiny? Did she have a small platform on her nose that revolved while a sparrow performed acrobatic tricks on it? No, said the father. She had a red and yellow ball on her nose. She could have lost the ball, said the child. Maybe she does have a platform on her nose now. Where is the seal you saw? Asked Frog. He asked Frog. I don't know where she is now, said Frog, but 2 years ago she was with a traveling theatrical troupe that comes to the Pine Woods every year. If Uncle Frog could take us there, maybe we could find the seal, said the mouse child to the father, and then we could all look for the elephant together. Finding the elephant would be as pointless as looking for her, said the father, but since I cannot convince you of that, we might as well just travel to the Pine Woods as anywhere else. At any rate, we shall see something of the world. Very well, said the frog, on to the Pine Woods. Extra! Screamed a raucous voice above them, and a blue jay flashed by in the sunlight. Rats slain and bank hold up a tent. Wind-ups flee with getaway frog. Late scores. Wood mice lead meadow team in acorn bowling. Acorn bowling. Voles idle. So it begins, said Frog. For good or ill, you have come out into the world, and the world has taken notice. A long hard road, said the father to the frog. That's what you saw ahead of us, was it not? All roads, whether long or short, are hard, said the frog. Come, you have begun your journey, and all else necessary follows from that act. Be of good cheer, the sun is bright, the sky is blue, the world lies before you. Father saw the brightness of the meadow through the dark trees. 2 crows, sharp against the sky, sailed over it in broad black wings, and he thought of how many steps it would take him to traverse the same distance. His spring tightened as the frog wound him, his motor buzzed, and he pushed his son ahead. Behind them in the shadows of the trees stretched the double tracks of tin feet and the odd prints left by frogs trailing woolen fingers. And bending over the trail in the snow was a figure clothed in greasy scrap of silk paisley tied with a dirty string. The clockwork elephant followed, with 2 empty paper bags slung on her back. The planner of the bank robbery, growing doubtful of Ralphie's prompt return, had thought prudent to come out and meet him to collect the booty. Rat slain in bank hold-up attempt, said Manny Rat. That idiot, Ralphie. I suppose that means no treacle bird for me. And those wretched wind-ups have gone off with the frog as if their single purses were to make a fool of me. Now I'll be the laughingstock of the whole dump unless I find them and smash them. Oh, God. Jeez. Chapter 3. Midnight rang the clock in the steeple of the church across the meadow. 12 o'clock, and it's all peaceful here. Sleep well. Out of the light of the moon that floated clear in the clouded sky, Frog paused under the trees that bordered the meadow. He turned to look back anxiously over the snow behind them, then faced forward again listening. The mouse and the child walked on a little, and then stopped unwound. What's the matter? Asked the child. I hear something up ahead, said Frog, and Manny Rat is close behind us. I've seen him dodging in and out of the trees. If he catches us, I fear that our friendship may not survive the encounter. Whatever it is, said Frog. I'm sorry. I hear something now, said the child. It was far off, ghostly whistling, and the rhythmic whisper of distant drums. Whatever it is, said Frog, I can scarcely be worse than Manny Rat in his present mood. Let us press on. He wound up the father and hopped beside him and the child towards the sound of the drum, and the whistling now drew closer. In the shadows of the trees ahead, a green light, pale dim, glimmered and it was gone. Then it glimmered again. Foxfire beacon, said Frog. He stopped and knocked the mouse and his child down to stop them too. I've seen those before, he said. I've smelled that same musky scent I smell now. What's in front of us is... He leapt aside as a wood mouse bolted past, dragging her children with her. War! She cried. The drumming grew fiercer and louder, and whistling could now be recognized as the shrill stringing of piercing little voices accompanied by a reed fife. Onward, shrews for territory, victory crown our might. Onward, shrews for fame and glory, heroes to the fight. What are shrews? Asked the child. They look something like mice, said the frog, but they're short-tailed, sharper-nosed, and smaller. Very little and very bloodthirsty. They eat constantly, and when they have war, they eat even more. The mouse father's motor having run down, Frog stood him and the child on their feet again. The band of shrews was less than 100 yards away, and the scout who had signaled with the phosphorescent wood moved off to join them. Frog watched the foxfire bobbing dimly, growing smaller in the distance. Their eyesight's very poor, he said. They haven't seen us yet. Perhaps I'll go away, and just as well. They're a commissary company, I think, after rations. That's why the mouse was running so hard. In any case, they don't eat tin. Do they eat frogs? Asked the child. When they catch them, replied Frog. The shrews moved into the moonlight, and the child, looking beyond his father's shoulder, saw the little company, spiky with tiny spears they carried, clustered back against the snow. The singing had stopped, but the rolling beat of the nutshell drum and the piping of the reed fife continued with the scout made his report. Those spears have poison tips, said Frog. Be careful, said the child. Don't get any closer. There's no going back either, said Frog. Here's Manny Rat. Good evening, called Manny Rat. In a hoarse whisper, he had left the elephant in the brush behind him, the better to come upon his quarry in silence. Are we doubtful of the future, he said? Do we wonder which way to turn? Frog, remembering his promise to travel with the mouse and his child for as long as their destined road might lie together, decided that those roads must now diverge. Friendship was a noble thing, but life was sweet. Therefore, he hopped out of the shadows to meet Manny Rat, hoping to find some soft answer that would turn away his anger at least. Alright, I'll continue this tomorrow. I love you dearly. So many cliffhangers. Good night.